Ah, yes, the 20s was a time full of wonderful splendor and opportunity for the young average American, just as long as you weren't a woman or a minority, but we'll get to that later. Things were looking up here in the States, and we had a booming economy. At the end of the First World War, Germany surrendered and agreed to the Treaty of Versailles, subsequently rendering them weakened and in debt to the Allied powers, which of course is great news to us Americans. Due to the surrender, our troops were sent home, and soon America was booming due to the lack of necessity to manufacture tanks and weapons. These troops were soon looking for work, and due to the newest invention during the war created by Henry Ford called the assembly line, it allowed work to move on a lot smoother. Eventually, because of the fast pace of how things were being made, weekends were introduced. This allowed people to spend more time with their families, and like a domino effect, one thing led after the other, and soon advertisements for products were being put into the world. Of course, people were now making more money, so they were able to purchase more things, and materialism sparked. In the 20s, many things we still use today were created, like cars, airplanes, and radios. People who could not afford items placed at a higher price could purchase things called installments. Remember this because this will be very important later. Yes, sir, this is President Warren Harding. He was well known for being a laissez-faire kind of guy, quintessentially meaning he did nothing. Women's hair got shorter, their dresses got shorter, and the use of alcohol consumption got shorter. Psych! Yes, while there was a ban on alcohol, did that really stop anyone? No. They were like the edgy teens of the 20s. Their speakeasies was like our hot topic. People smuggled alcohol into private clubs where people did whatever they wanted to their heart's content, with music being played and stages set for dancing. The music being played really brought people together as a whole. But of course, all good things must come to an end. After another corrupt, lazy president, that's when everything went downhill. Remember those installment things I talked about earlier? Well, eventually over time, people started not being able to pay for the items that they bought with the installments. And then, banks eventually ran out of money, so they had to start giving away the money that was stored away in their vaults until all of it was gone. People were now left devastated. The Depression, of course, first hit farmers. During the war, the demand for crops was very high but fell sharply in the 20s. With the loans that they bought for the expensive equipment that they used, they no longer had any money to pay back the bank. When the economy inevitably fails, Americans cannot pay off the rest of their balances. Businesses can no longer stay open because they have run out of money to even keep open, and unemployment skyrockets. People were let off from work and were no longer able to support their families. For those who were not put off work, were paid very little with decreased salaries. Because of the lack of necessity for crops during the 20s, farmers eventually began to let their soil go and have their animals graze it or use the good soil to plant wheat. Because the soil was so badly tarnished, it eventually became a dust-like material. Over time, when the wind would blow, the dust would scatter all throughout the countryside and would be able to reach 8,000 feet and go up to 100 miles per hour. This eventually killed cattle, suffocated birds, and fish. With everything, though, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Franklin Roosevelt was elected president, and what he did to fix this issue was establish as many jobs as he possibly could and created government programs to get people out of poverty. So, over time, this actually worked, and we all lived happily ever after. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. The end.